one.
Ooh, okay. I got a little notification there.
Yeah, everyone was told we're recording now. So welcome, Tim. Welcome, everybody. This has been an evening many of us have been looking forward to. Tim, we know that you're a storyteller and have a lot of stories, and you've got a great baseball background, and we're just looking, we love stories. So we're going to probably have a lot of questions and just let you kind of ramble. And I always like to start it out with a couple of questions just to get to know you from a baseball standpoint. And
Sure.
my standard question is, what is your earliest baseball memory?
Oh, wow. That's actually a really good question. I think it's from my dad. My dad coached after he played in the big leagues for however many years. He was a coach. And then when I came along and I was born, he was a coach in the minor leagues. And I think my earliest memory was an announcer saying the phrase in Rockford, Illinois, I believe, Archie Cianfrocco was a name that stuck out in my mind. That was the first time I'd ever remembered anything when it came to baseball, at least professionally. And yeah, he was a player in the league, and I like the way the announcer said the word Archie Cianfrocco. So yeah, that was my first memory, I think, of professional baseball.
Yeah. And can anyone on this Zoom meeting spell Cianfrocco? I have no clue.
I'll give you 7 chances and see if you can come up with how to spell Cianfrocco.
No Googling allowed either.
Yeah. I think I can do Archie. So that's cool. So as a kid, and I usually, so I'm before age 12, who was your favorite ball player?
Probably my dad. My dad, huge influence, but probably not till high school I realized that he was actually a big deal, and he played in the big leagues. For a long time, my favorite player was Carlton Fisk. I was a catcher. So for me, I'm like, I gravitated towards catchers. It was Yogi Berra, and then it was Carlton Fisk. It was Yogi Berra because he had been teammates with so many great players across baseball. And I actually got to meet Yogi Berra when he was a coach for 1 year in the Houston Astros organization. I saw him in spring training. I got a baseball, I got a pen, and I was going to get him to sign a ball before he went on a road trip. And he goes to get on the bus. He's got like his briefcase and stuff. And I asked, Mr. Berra, will you sign this baseball? And he was like, oh, sure, son. He's like, let me just throw my stuff on the bus and I'll come back and sign it. And I was like, okay. And this was in the 90s, man. Like I'm standing outside this bus. Jeff Bagwell's walking by, Ken Caminiti, Craig Biggio. All these guys are walking by. And I'm like, I have your autograph. I have your autograph. I have your autograph. And anyway, so he got on the bus door closed and then it left. So I never got his autograph. But after that, Carlton Fisk was my favorite player for a long time.
Did you wear his number 27 at all as a uniform number?
I didn't. I always wore my number 17 jersey that I got in high school because it was the only jersey nobody wanted when I was in 9th grade. And so I put that thing on. Hey, random person walking by. I put that thing on and it was number 17. And then when I got in pro ball, I wore 17. I remember somebody pulling me really close one year and going, "You'll never be number 17 in the big leagues. That's Gumby's number." And I was like, okay. So I learned that lesson real quick.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I had because you have that in your email address. So I figured that 17 went to some number, so went some uniform. So yeah.
Yeah, it counts for how many years it took to grow an awesome beard. Yeah. 17. Yeah.
I'm 72, and that wouldn't be enough time to grow a beard. So
you got the stash going though.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Mike Carey's got a comment here. I probably have an Archie Cianfrocco. I think you spelled it right too. Wow, Mike. I probably have an Archie Cianfrocco autograph as he was on the Expos farm and in late 80s. who played third base. So yeah, wow.
I'm gonna do a bio project on him now, biography.
Yeah, I agree. That's just because of the name alone.
It sticks with you. Just trust me. It sticks with you. It's a good name.
Yeah. Well, we don't have as many good baseball names like that as we used to either. So
true.
Yeah.
Actually in 2006, the minor leagues, I was in AA, the minor leagues did a thing about best baseball names in professional baseball. They actually used to vote on this stuff. I was teammates with Calix Crab. Calix Crab, he's now an assistant hitting coach with the Texas Rangers, but he came in second that year in 2006. And I believe the winner was a guy from the Reds organization. His name was Nucci Varner. Has anybody heard the name Nucci Varner before?
No.
Yeah.
See, Chris is shaking his head, Mike, because it doesn't ring a bell with me.
Yeah, Nucci Varner. What a man.
How would you ever get a name like Nucci?
Yeah. I think it's a nickname, but still.
Did you have any nicknames?
Some of the nicknames I had when my dad was coaching and I was the guy shining shoes, I can't share that nickname.
No.
But they called me little something. But yeah, mostly it's just like Dilly Bar. Rick Sweet, who is the AAA manager for the Milwaukee Brewers, he called me Dilly Bar all the time. Anyway, that's about it. I don't think Tim Dillard. I tried to get Twitter in 2013 and there was like 25 Tim Dillards. And so Tim Dillard became available. John Axford used to call me Tim Dillard all the time. So yeah.
Good. I've got one more question, and I've got a whole bunch of questions if we need to fill, but I'm sure everybody else has questions. There's a couple stories I always like to hear, and there are days that most of us have never experienced, and you have. And one is getting drafted. What was that experience like, and how did you find out about it?
Yeah, it was 2001 was the first year I was drafted. I was a senior in high school and I had to go over to a friend's house because they had the World Wide Web. And that was the only way to find out at that time if you had been drafted or whatever. And anyway, I was refreshing, you hit the refresh button. You're like, refresh. And anyway, I got a call. And I answered the phone real fast, and it was someone from the Brewers. And at this time, I'm looking at, and it's the first round. It's the first round of the draft on the internet. And he was like, "Is this Tim Dillard?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I just got drafted in the first round." And they were like, "Yeah, we just drafted you as a catcher in the 15th round of the amateur major league draft." And I'm like, "What?" So I click refresh, and it's like, "Yeah, okay, I was in the 15th round." So I forgot to click for a moment. Anyway, I thought it was a first rounder for about 10 or 15 seconds, but yeah, I was a 15th rounder as a catcher in 2001. So that's how I found out. I was at a friend's house who happened to have the World Wide Web, because before that, I mean, I don't even know how people found out before that. I think it was just a phone call.
And that could have been days.
Yeah, it could have been. And people probably didn't even know the draft was going on at certain times.
Good. Why did you switch from catching to pitching?
Good question. That's actually a Brewers answer. They drafted me twice as a catcher, and then they signed me right before the 2003 draft as a pitcher, because they were like, "We think you have a longer career as a pitcher rather than a catcher." And I didn't think that was possible at the time, but I went on to throw 18 seasons in professional baseball. So apparently they knew what they were talking about to some degree. So yeah, I always wanted to be a catcher. I wanted to be a switch hitting catcher. My dad told me when I was 5 that the fastest way to the big leagues was a switch hitting catcher. You look at Jorge Posada, you look at some of these catchers that can bat lefty and, obviously throw righty. So yeah, that's you as a catcher, you're a part of every pitch. You're a part of every play. You play every day for the most part. So for me, I always want to be a catcher. And then suddenly I'm a relief pitcher. And I find out that I do just a little bit more than the bat boy. So I was like, I go from being every single day to like, yeah, you can play sometimes. That was tough, but yeah, it was mainly the Brewers. They thought I was a better pitcher than I was a catcher. So yeah, what are you gonna do?
Well, you weren't shining shoes, so that was a step up. So yeah.
Yeah, they kind of did away with that. There's really no shoe shine boys anymore in the in professional baseball. You can just get scrubbing bubbles and just spray that and then scrub it. So yeah.
Questions, anybody?
Yeah. In your first 5 innings with the Brewers, you pitched in your first 5 appearances, you pitched 5 2/3 innings, allowing just 1 hit. You must have entered the majors with a great deal of confidence. Do you want to comment on that?
I mean, confidence. Yeah, I guess I was throwing 96 and it had a 90-mile-an-hour slider, and I had a 1 ERA in AAA, and I was on the roster. So at some point, I knew I was going to get called up. I didn't know when. I got called up May 23rd, 2008, and I don't know. I did really well for a while, and then my first bad outing was in Colorado, which I'm sure a lot of people have had very bad outings in Colorado just because of the, it's hard to pitch there. It's the altitude and everything else. But yeah, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know for a long time until actually years later that I did have a pretty good run to begin with, because I think as a pitcher, you don't really look at that kind of stuff. As a pitcher, you're thinking about whether you did good or bad, you're looking for the next day. And you're going, okay, next day, you're like, okay, what do I have to do today? What team are we facing? How do I have to get ready? So for me, I actually didn't even know that I did really well, probably for like several years. But yeah, I was good for a long time, for a short time.
In that streak, you had your first major league strikeout. Do you know who you struck out to do that?
Aaron Boone, because Dario Melendez, I made the mistake. I don't know if you guys watch Brewers Live or Brewers post-game, pre-game, but Dario Melendez, I made the mistake of telling him my first strikeout was Aaron Boone, and he goes, the manager of the New York Yankees? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh, I know who that is. And he's like, well, that was my first strikeout. So he tries to bring that up every single show.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of that. I'm sure Aaron Boone remembers. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You can say just
job as a broadcaster, so we're glad to have you on board, just giving the accounts of the Brewers' successes. What was the impetus? Who suggested you to pursue this, this career in broadcasting? And
Oh, good question. I would say the first person that ever brought it up to me was Davey Nelson. My dad knew him from years back, and so when I got with the Brewers, Davey was always really, we talked all the time, and so they used to call me up in the spring training. They would say, "Here's the funny kid. Bring him up. Let him, do some sort of skit for pregame stretch before spring training practice." And I would make fun of Harry Carey or Tim Kirchin, or just come up with something funny, make fun of coaches or whatever it was. And I made fun of, I did a skit one day, and after we were done, Davey Nelson pulled me aside and was like, you know what? You could do TV one day. You could do broadcasting. And at the time I was a young kid, and I'm thinking, no, I'm going to play 25 years in the big leagues, which we all know I did not do at any turn. But he was just like, I think you could do this. I think you'd be great at it. So yeah, it was actually Davey Nelson that was the first person that was really coming alongside me going, yes, this is something that you should pursue.
By the way, in Tim's first major league game, Craig Counsell pinch hit for him.
Yeah, right? What a punk.
don't worry, Tim, they got a lot more.
The audacity of this man. Yeah.
do you most of us have never had a chance to bat in the major leagues, and you've got a 500 batting average, so which is very, very nice. Do you remember all of your hits?
All of my hits in the big leagues?
Yeah.
It was one.
Well, it's
Yeah,
easy to
but-
remember one, isn't it? Yeah, no.
Oh yeah, I remember the first
Yeah.
one. No, of course, it was my
Yeah.
first at bat ever, and
Mhm.
Could have stopped then.
yeah, so we were playing the Braves, and I don't even know who the pitcher was, but he threw the
Seth
first
McClug.
pitch.
Seth McClug.
No,
No, I'm trying to think who it was. It was
Jorge Campillo.
was it
Oh,
Jorge
yes.
Campillo? Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
Ready to get
Yeah,
retro
no.
keep going.
Yeah, so he threw a fastball about 89.
Yeah.
And I swung through it like it was 110. And I thought, that's the fastest pitch I've ever seen. And so in the big leagues, you have the miles per hour. It's everywhere. It's like on every ribbon board. And so I'm looking around, I'm going, oh, that was 89. I was like, wow, it seemed way faster because because the big leagues, everything speeds up. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that everything's faster in the big leagues. Everything just is quicker. So anyway, I thought, okay, I'm not going to get beat on this next pitch. And then he threw a changeup. And so I check swung a ball over Mark Teixeira's head at first base. Cause you remember Mark Teixeira was, he played first base for the Braves at that time. And anyway, I ran down to first, I got a hit. And anyway, I came back to first and I was like, holy cow, I just got a hit. And Mark Teixeira goes, was that your first major league hit? And I said, it was. And he was like, well, congratulations. I was like, thanks. I wish I'd have seen it. Because I'm not going to lie, there's video of me closing my eyes and I kind of dink it over his head. So exit velocity, who's talking about exit velocity? You can just dink it around. Who cares?
Yeah. You were in relief of Seth McClug, and yeah, I was off. Sorry, Campillo was right, Bob. Thanks for correcting me on that. And in that game, you pitched 1 1/3 innings, with a strikeout and allowing only 1 hit. So it was a pretty good day for you, I'd say.
Well, I had no idea. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Usually when I had an at bat, I came in and the coach goes, congratulations, you did so bad that you get an at bat right now. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So usually I just assume when I get an at bat, it means something went terribly wrong.
In the minors, you had 3 home runs.
Oh yeah. I didn't say that when I logged on here. That was usually the first thing I say. That's usually the first thing I say is, you don't know this, but I have 3 professional home runs, but yeah.
Well, real quick, anybody else on this have 3 major league home runs or professional home runs? No, I guess not. So yeah. Yeah. Always one in a crowd, Tim. Yeah.
Well, my first one was in 2006. I was in AA and I hit a ball to like, I think it was in Jacksonville, Florida. We were playing the Dodgers. So guys on that team, Chin Lung Hu, if you remember Chin Lung Hu, Adam LaRoche or Andy LaRoche. One of the LaRoche brothers was on that team. A guy named Matt Kemp, he was on that team. Trying to think who else. But yeah, I was pitching a really good game and I hit a 3-run bomb off into like a park or like a cemetery or something. I hit a bomb in left center and I came around the bases and, I was jacked up. I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go, and I went out and I pitched really well, but then I broke my fingernail, which it's fine now. But in 2006, I broke it. It like ripped in half. And they were like, okay, we're going to take you out of the game. And I was like, no. I was like, this is my game. I'm hitting really well. I'm pitching really well. I'm going to pitch. And they put me back out there and I gave up 6 earned runs after that. So that was my first home run. I realized sometimes you just be a hero and be done with it. But my fingernail healed and I did, pretty well after that. Let's see, my 3rd home run, Eric Young Jr. If you remember Eric Young, Jr., he got the stolen base title years ago with the Rockies, but he was my teammate. He was on second base and I hit a ball in New Orleans in 2016. And it was a big deal because we were big fans of Major League 2. Has anybody watched Major League 2? Major League 2, they do yeah, right. Thank you, Mike. They do a thing where they go White Lightning and Black Thunder. And so I came across home plate and he was like, White Lightning. And I was like, Black Thunder, and we high five. So that was kind of a moment for me. I didn't really mean to do that. It was the third inning of a day game in New Orleans. It was about 99 degrees. So just to survive that day was a big day, but to hit a home run was something different. But yeah, I mean, home runs are great. I know position players really like them. Pitchers, they come across very rarely, but you totally remember them. That's a highlight.
And I figured very few pitchers get asked how many home runs or remembering their home runs. So I thought, well, we have to at least ask. So.
Well, any pitcher that has a home run, they're wanting you to ask that question so they can share their story.
Well, and 2006 was your best year at the plate, and 49 plate appearances. You had a slash line of 302, 302, and 442 with a 744 OPS. Sign them up for the hitting spot, boys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of numbers you throw at me there. But it was the first half of the season. If you dig even deeper, I batted probably around 350 or 360 because that's the first time in AA where you're facing pitchers, right? So there's a lot of anxiety for pitchers to face pitchers early on because it's basically like you should get this guy out. So a pitching coach would be like, whatever you do, don't walk the pitcher. Well, so then what happens? You go out there and you end up walking the pitcher, or you end up getting into a bad count. And so the first half of the season, I just took advantage of it. Guys were throwing heaters right down the middle, BP fastballs, and I was crushing them. And then the second half of the season, it became more or less like curveballs and sliders. I saw a lot of breaking balls after people would look at my batting average and go, okay, well, I'm not going to give up a double or a home run to this guy. So I struck out a lot the second half, but I think I'm still a 311 hitter in AA right now. So if I come out of retirement and I go to AA, I'm a 300 hitter.
Good.
So anyway, I got that painted on my wall at home.
The other question I had and I was thinking about is, the draft story is always good, but the call-up story. Some people, when they're called up to the majors to start out, they either have very good stories because someone was messing with them when it happened, or so was yours one of those type of stories that when you got called up to the major leagues, they messed with you a little bit?
I don't think anybody messed with me. We got done with the game late, and then the next day we were busing in AAA to Memphis, and so I had a flip phone at the time, a flip phone in 2008, and my manager called me, Frank Kremblis, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, it's 7 a.m. I was sleeping. What's up?" And he said, "What are you doing today?" And I'm like, "I'm getting on the bus with you guys, and we're going to Memphis, right? Did I miss something?" And he was like, No, you're going to fly to Washington, D.C. You're going to meet up with the big league team, and you're going to be a part of that team going forward." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He was like, "Yeah, so come get your stuff at the field and then get to the airport as quick as you can." I was like, "Okay." So I woke my wife up and I said, "Hey, honey, I got called up to the big leagues." And she was like, "That's nice, dear." I was like, "What?" She likes her sleep. So I was like, "All right, well, wake up, we got to go." And anyway, we did the whole fly out, got to get a plane ticket. We get to DC. It's Memorial Day weekend in this brand new $1 billion stadium in 2008. So just trying to navigate that whole thing. And I got there late and they dropped me off. I got a taxi. They dropped me off on the wrong side of the stadium. So I had to run through the tunnel. And I finally get to the clubhouse and I change clothes. I go play catch with Marcus Hannell, our bullpen catcher. And then I immediately come back in and I change jerseys. I go right back out. We do the national anthem. And then I'm pitching in the game in the fifth or sixth inning. So it was super fast. It happened over a 24-hour period or 18-hour period. But it happened literally so fast. And then it was over. And I don't even know what happened. I don't know how many pitches I threw. I know I struck out Aaron Boone. I think I got a ground out, maybe a pop out. I have no idea. And then yeah, it was over and done with. And I sat in the dugout, and Ben Sheets came over, and he was like, "Hey man, you done? You done pitching?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Okay, why don't you go to the clubhouse?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." Because I didn't know what to do. That's as far as I've gotten. You go through the steps, they tell you all this stuff. But in a big league game, it's like, what do I do when I'm done pitching? It's like, well, did they hit for you? And I was like, yeah. They're like, go to the clubhouse. And I'm like, okay. So I went to the clubhouse. So, and then what's interesting is that night I went back to the hotel in Washington, D.C. I can't remember the name of the hotel, but I do keep the key cards of every hotel I've ever been in professional baseball. But I go back to the hotel, and there's a bunch of autograph guys that were like, "Ben Sheets, will you sign this card?" And I was like, "I'm not Ben Sheets," because I used to be clean shaven. I don't know if I look like Ben Sheets right now, but at the time I did. And so I would tell them like, "No, I'm not Ben Sheets." And they were like, "Come on, Mr. Sheets, will you sign?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." So anyway, needless to say, there's about 10 cards out there in the world of Ben Sheets with Tim Dillard autographing it. But I gave them a warning, so it's on them. Yeah.
We'll see how good those authenticators are.
Yeah, slap a hologram on that bad boy.
Yeah.
I bet it's worth pennies.
You've had the opportunity to play with a lot of different ball players in your career. So
Sure.
over that time, is there a player that comes to mind that you just enjoyed playing with or really liked having as a teammate, or something that, when I think of really one of your favorite players of all time, there's a name that just pops up at you?
Prince Fielder is probably on a lot of people's list. I feel like sometimes he gets forgotten a little bit because he's this big impact player, but he was an awesome guy. And obviously we'd win games. It was great. But when we'd lose games, it was like, it was his moment to show that guys like, hey, the world hasn't ended. All we did was lose a game. That's it. And so it came to the forefront in 2012 when we didn't have him and we lost a game. And I'm looking around going, this is really sad. Like, we're all really sad because we lost a game, because we don't have somebody with the presence of a Prince Fielder that is an impact player that says, you know what, guys, by the way, we're not going to win 162 games. Chillax. Don't worry about it. Let's get the next game, And for me, that was a big moment, because in 2012, I guess I didn't appreciate, or I didn't know at the time how much I'd appreciate somebody like Prince and his presence in the clubhouse. But he's just awesome. CC Sabathia too in 2008. Good Lord, that guy is just an amazing person. He had his mom here in Milwaukee that she traveled with him and would cook for him. So after every game, he would ask me like, hey, you want to come? My mom's cooking a bunch of food. You want to come and eat? And and I guess I wish I should have done that. My wife was pregnant at the time. So, it was something, it wasn't really, a good time to do that kind of stuff. But there's certain teammates that you have throughout your career that just make you feel like you're an all-star. And we all know that I was never an all-star. So those guys are pretty special for me.
Is there a player on the flip side? You don't have to give names, although we like names, but we don't require it. But is there someone on the other side that you're like, boy, this is the biggest asshole ever, or whatever? And why? I mean, when you play with guys that you like, I really appreciate that on both CC and Prince. Is there someone on the opposite end you thought, oh God, I have to go into the clubhouse and he's going to be there?
There was a guy, Felipe Lopez. Y'all remember him? The Brewers had him a couple years. He was a great guy in the clubhouse for the most part, but like, he just had antics that just kind of disrupted everything that was going on. It's hard to put your finger on exactly the one thing, but he was always nice to me, but like, he just kind of tried to do whatever he could to kind of mix things up and bother people. And it, like I said, it didn't bother me, but then again, I'm not playing every day. I'm not an impact player. I'm not an all-star. But I know it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I think that's why his tenure, even though he was really good, I think that's why his tenure in Milwaukee was kind of cut short, because it was just like, well, you're not jiving with what we're trying to do out there with what Prince and Braun and all those guys are trying to do. So anyway, it always baffled me as a player of like, why would you be a guy that comes in that's just trying to mess up everything that's going on? So for me early on, I just wanted to be a guy that people wanted to be around. You know, later in my later years in AAA, I was the oldest guy in the league. And we had these young guys like Woodruff or Burns or Peralta or Hader, like all these guys that are doing really awesome in the big leagues right now. And here I am, like, what can I show them? And I just want to show them that baseball is actually really awesome and you can be a good teammate, you know, and what that looks like and what it doesn't look like.
Cool.
You mentioned earlier that I believe you said Ben Sheets was the one that suggested you leave the bench and go back to the clubhouse after being taken out of the game.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning for that? Why would not, for team morale or just support, why is it a kind of a custom in many cases in the big leagues for the starting pitcher to leave?
Yeah, it's something about, I mean, I came in relief, but it's one of those things where, and it's changed. I know I saw Brent Suter, he pitched one out the other day and he was back out, you know, high-fiving a couple innings later, but it's all about getting your work done. I think with good big league players, they understand it's all about the next step. It's about the next game. And so Mike Maddox was really big. Pitching coach Mike Maddox was talking about being a boxer. He talked about being a boxer all the time. He's like, boxers have their fists right here, ready, you know, ready for battle. And he wanted you to have your gloves up until you were legally out of the game. You know, you have your gloves up, the coach can shake your hand and say, hey, you're done. But then again, there's so many things that can happen. The guy could trip coming out of the bullpen. So you want to keep your gloves up. You know, you get 2 outs and you get a pop up to the infield. You don't lower your gloves, you keep them up there because it takes you a whole game as a bullpen guy to get your gloves ready. The last thing you want to do is just drop them on a whim thinking you're out of the game. So Mike Maddox, you know, taught guys to keep their gloves up. And so you're there until they hit for you or a pitcher comes out and throws his first pitch off the mound. Otherwise, you're in the game. And so my gloves would be here. And as soon as that pitcher threw the next pitch, I'd be like, okay, like I'm done. And the idea is to say, okay, you're done with this game. It's about getting ready for the next game. So leave the dugout. Don't try to be on TV. Go in the dugout and go in the clubhouse, get your work done, whether it's, you know, like shoulder maintenance or whether it's a lift or whatever you do to get yourself ready for tomorrow in case we need you. So that's the first time I'd ever like learned it at that level of like, hey, great job. Once you beat it, and go get ready for the next day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some questions out here. Ryan is asking, you're talking about Yogi, and he's noticing here or saying that Yogi retired after the '89 season. Wondered when that incident you're talking about, trying to get the autograph signed, what year was that, you know?
Yeah, he was like a bench coach in spring training, and sometime in the 80s. My dad was coaching for the Astros. It may have been 88, 89. Okay. But he was like I assume it's on there. I don't know if it's Wikipedia or whatever, but it was a big deal to me. I mean, I didn't have a bunch of cards of him, but I did have a baseball that was waiting for him. But yeah, that was, I guess, later in his career. But obviously anybody knew who Yogi Berra was. And I think that's what Art Howe and some of those Astros are trying to do, is bring across somebody that has some sort of perspective on what was going on. But yeah, they were just going on a spring training trip. And in Florida, it's a little different than Arizona. Florida, you might be taking a 3-hour trip or a 2-hour trip. Arizona, you take like a 30-minute trip for spring training. But at that time, they were going on a trip across the state. So it was a big deal to make sure you have all your stuff. And yeah, he left me hanging. I don't hold it against him, but Carlton Fisk went up on my list after that.
Chris has got a couple of questions out here. Where did you get your sense of humor?
I'm just glad that I do have a sense of humor. I don't know if it comes across or not. You know, you have to be careful, especially on TV. I'm doing TV stuff now, and I don't know if it translates or not, but I was the youngest of 3 boys. I got 2 older brothers, and it was just basically trying to, you know, make them laugh. That's all I've ever wanted to do, is make people laugh and bring some joy to what's going on. And I think being a youngest kid, just kind of getting put in the background a little bit. You know, if you want attention, you better find attention. So even when I was in 9th grade, I remember I never thought much about it till I was in 9th grade. And I realized that all the seniors on the baseball team, they wanted me to eat lunch at their table because I could entertain them. And so I thought, hey, I'd rather be friends with, you know, some of these senior guys. That way they don't make, you know, give me a hard time and, you know, playing baseball. And so I kind of played that part. And so I don't know. I enjoy movies. I enjoy life. I enjoy having fun, because the alternative is hard. You know, life is hard. So if every single day I woke up and I'm like, woe is me, and oh man, this is terrible, that's not very attractive. I know some people, for me, the most attractive people I know are they're most forthcoming, honest, transparent. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that even though there's tough things in life, they do understand that it is life and it's not the end all when it comes to, hey, how do we interact with people on a daily basis? So for me, it's all about who I'm with and when I'm with them and what we're doing. So to me, I just try to bring some joy, whatever that looks like.
Good. Then Chris has a follow-up question, and Chris, I don't know about this one, so I can't wait to hear the answer. And what's the story behind the minor league card where you are getting hit with the ball in the jewels?
Yeah. Thank you for saying jewels. I know that's a little sensitive. We got a lot of
They're treasured.
yeah, so that's a famous card. Does anybody know Keith Comstock? Right, that's Keith Comstock's like famous minor league card. He it was like a joke, you know, when guys have a minor league baseball card, there's two groups that you fall into. There's the group of guys that go, yes, I have a professional baseball card, and then there's the other group of guys that are like, I'd rather have a major league baseball card. And anyway, Keith Comstock decided, if I'm going to have a minor league baseball card, I think in 1989, maybe, or 91. It was an odd year, I do remember. But Keith Comstock decided he was going to do a baseball card where it looks like a baseball is hitting him in the cup, or lack thereof. Athletic supporter, I don't know what's cordial, but yes. But anyway, it became a famous card. And so I was in Colorado Springs with the Brewers in AAA for 4 years, and the cameraman there had said he's always been waiting for a guy that he can reenact that baseball card. So literally like 20 years later, here's me. And I agreed to do it. I was like, sure, man, I'll do whatever. And so it took about, 80 or 90 takes, but we finally got the right picture of a baseball hitting me in the crotch. And I don't know, it's my favorite card. I have a card that was sponsored by Kroger, and I have a card sponsored by Kraft Cheese, but the card where I'm getting hit in the crotch is probably my favorite. And I actually know Keith Comstock because I was in the Rangers organization a couple of years ago, and I got to meet him, and we had a great conversation about that card and where it came from, and he knew who I was, and it was pretty awesome. So I don't know, it's a pretty cool card. If you don't know it, look it up.
Yeah, it looked painful, Tim.
It did. I'm lucky I have 3 kids.
Let's see, I'm on here.
Tim, were you a milkman?
I was a milkman. Last year, minor league baseball was canceled, like across the board, every organization, every league. And I sent an email to the Milwaukee Milkmen on their website, and they hit me back, and I pitched there for a month, and we won the championship. So
Congratulations.
yeah, they were going to win it anyway. I just happened to be along for the ride. But I did get a ring.
That counts.
Yeah.
Well, as a follow-up on that, Tim, I'm curious. We got a new team coming to Oconomowoc in that league for next year.
Yep.
What would you tell what should I say, an aspiring player? What's the good, the bad, the different of being in a league like that versus the true minor leagues in Major League Baseball?
There's really no different between minor league baseball and independent baseball that's not affiliated. I guess the only real thing is that the independent guys actually know more about what's going on in professional baseball. If you're 20 years old and you sign a contract with, let's say, the Brewers, and they give you $2 million, well, you immediately think you're very important. So you no fault of your own, you come to spring training, you come to extended spring training, you come to A-ball, AA, AAA, and you automatically think, I'm really important. What independent ball is filled with is a bunch of guys that maybe went through that and it didn't work out for them. And now here they are holding on going, I still want to play baseball. And so what you don't get in affiliated or independent baseball is a bunch of guys that are saying, look at me. Because if you're in independent baseball, you're all getting paid about the same, and it's not a lot. And there's no major league club to get called up to. So you're all just playing baseball for the sheer, love of the game, right? So yeah, so you're out there just playing. And actually it's a really good environment. My time with the Milkmen, I've been on several independent baseball teams, and it's just some of the best dynamics because these guys just all they want to do is win, and they're all about their teammates. And in affiliated ball at the lower levels, a lot of times you get these guys that just think they're really important, and they carry themselves that way. They talk to their teammates that way. They talk to the trainers and the coaches like, you should be thankful that you're talking to me because I'm really important. And anyway, that's a big pitfall. I don't think they really mean to do that when they give these young guys a lot of money, but it's kind of the result, because they don't have anybody telling them that, hey, you're just like everybody else. You have to earn, your way to the big leagues and all that. But I don't know. It's a different dynamic, but the guys in independent baseball, they've been through it, and all they care about is the game. So a lot of times when you watch an independent baseball game, you have a bigger group of guys that come together and just love baseball for the sheer fact that it is baseball, and all they're trying to do is win.
Mm-hmm.
And
Are
aren't
there bird
those
dogs or different scouts out at those independent games occasionally?
What is that?
Yeah, are there any bird dog or any scouts out some of these independent
Oh
league
yeah.
games?
Oh yeah. So last year I had a teammate of mine. He was the closer for the Milkmen, and he threw the entire season. It was like 20 something innings or 30 innings, and didn't give up a run. And the Cubs came in. They had a scout there for most of the season, and a Cub scout got him signed. And I don't think he made it to the big leagues this year or whatever, but he did get signed out of independent ball. It's a real thing. There's a guy, Anthony Bender, who was the Brewers. The Brewers loaned him to this league, this team. And anyway, he got to the big leagues with the Marlins this year. So this guy goes from pitching in the Milwaukee Milkmen, and now he's with the Marlins. Yeah, I mean, that's a real thing. Like there's different ways to get to the big leagues, but it has a lot to do with what your perspective on what's going on. I think a lot of guys don't have any perspective on professional baseball. They have an idea of what it should be, and then they finally experience it and they're like, wait, what's going on? But the ones that have the best mindset and the best perspective of what's going on, I think scouts see that, and I think scouts are looking for guys like that. They're looking for, okay, who can I recommend to my team to get them to get into professional baseball? So yeah, I met several scouts. Most of them I was teammates with back in the day.
also the indie leagues winning is more important to the franchise because in A-ball, whether we win or not, it's not important. Who did we develop? There, it's they want to win for their fans because that's how you bring the fans back next year.
Sure. I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to win. But at the same time, so I talked to Al LaBeouf. He's the AAA coach for the Nashville Sounds. He's the AAA for the Milwaukee Brewers. And I asked him about Daniel Vogelback because Vogelback hit that grand slam the other day. Did everybody see that grand slam, game-winning walk-off grand slam? I mean, that's what we did. That's what I did in the backyard as a kid, right? Playing wiffle ball. I was like, bottom of the ninth, walk-off granny. That's what you always did. After he did that, I was working the show the next day. So I texted Al and I was like, Al, what was Vogelback like in AAA? What was his demeanor? How did he act? What was he working on? Things like that, because I wanted to know just whether it made it into the pregame show or not. I don't know, but I just wanted to know because I don't know much about Vogelback. I faced him some in the minor leagues, but just wanted to know. And he said he was awesome. He said he was showing the young kids how to win. And I think there's something to that, because I think a lot of guys don't know what it's like to just everything matters about winning. And I think you get complacent in college and in A-ball and in AA, and it's all about it's the process. I think what Vogelback was doing and what Al LaBeouf was telling me was this guy is telling guys, okay, forget the process, go out there, and what does it mean to do whatever it takes to win a game, whether it's the good at bat, whether it's the big play, whether it's the smart play. You have to do whatever you can that day to help the team win, because that's all that matters. And sometimes the minor leagues, I feel like that gets pushed aside. I think you're right. I think it gets pushed aside, and it teaches guys that losing's okay sometimes. And to me, I don't really agree with that. And I would say Craig Counsell doesn't agree with that. I think sometimes you put your best lineup out there for what you have. Like Willy Adames right now, could he be playing every single day? He could, but is he hurt? He's probably injured. So let's put him on the IL because we have a 10-game lead in the NL Central. Like, to me, that's smart. We have a big cushion. Let's get this guy rest. So are they playing their A squad out there? For the most part, they are, but there's a couple of guys that could be playing that don't need to be playing. Garcia, he's nursing a back. So I think there's a smart play of, in the moment, maybe you don't have your best lineup out there, but you're coaching it to the point where you can get your best lineup out there when you need it. And in the minor leagues, there's no precursor to that. You just put guys out there and they just kind of go out there and play. And at the end of the day, they're kind of like, whatever. So anyway, I'm big on winning, and the best players that I've seen that have come through the minor leagues, they're all about winning.
That seems so obvious, and hearing that it's not is very interesting.
Yeah, disconcerting, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else?
Consequently,
Francis?
go ahead. Consequently, do the big league managers ever have to just confront players about their attitudes regarding winning? As opposed to kind of undo some of the things they've learned in the minor leagues?
I think that's pretty rare. I think most of the guys that make it to the big leagues, they learn really quick. It's all about winning. I'm trying to think of a specific instance. Usually guys just get the idea. It's like, hey, whatever you were doing in the minor leagues, it doesn't cut it anymore. It's all about winning. That's what people come to see. That's what managers want. That's what front office wants. And I think guys in the minor leagues get complacent sometimes. And I'm going to be honest, there's times where I'm pitching in the 16th inning of an extra inning ball game, and there's nobody in the stands because it's 12:30 at night. And I'm coming set, and I got a guy on second base, and I look at home, and I'm thinking, does anybody care what we're doing right now? Because there's nobody watching. We're in the minor leagues. It has no bearing on anything as opposed to the big leagues. But the idea there is that whatever you're doing, you do it the best you can with the ability that you have. It doesn't matter if you're picking up trash, which I did. My dad would coach in these minor league stadiums, and I'd pick up trash after games or the next day. And there was a point where, if you've ever picked up trash at a baseball game, where you're sitting there going, do I pick up this straw wrapper, or do I just go on to the big stuff? And it's almost like a dilemma. Do you want to be good at picking up trash, or do you want to be the best you can be at picking up trash? So I learned at a young age, like, whatever you're doing, be the best that you can be at it. And I never missed a game due to injury in my entire 18 years in professional baseball. Like, I never missed a game due to injury. I was never hurt. I took care of myself. So for me, not having a 20-year career in the big leagues, it's because I just wasn't good enough, which is fine. I can't play 20 years in the big leagues. That's fine. But it wasn't because of an injury. I did everything I could. I did the best with what God gave me. And so I think that's the idea of doing whatever you're doing in life, do it the best you can with the abilities that God gave you, and being okay with that.
That goes to everything, Tim. I
Yeah,
agree
right.
with you on
Apply
that.
that to everyday life. I mean, I do that. Everything I've learned from baseball, and I apply it to my everyday life.
Never second guess what could have been.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that. I can just go, you know what? It wasn't because I had Tommy John or rotator cuff surgery. It's because I simply wasn't good enough. I'm okay with that. I sleep good.
Good. You mentioned your dad there, and think that lesson there. What other lessons did you learn from your dad?
Ooh, I mean, how much time we got? Yeah. So he played in the big leagues for like 8 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
He was the earliest I'd ever taken batting practice. He taught me how to do stuff. He taught me every position on the field. One thing that I really, really loved, and I can say this about both my parents, because my mom was a big league wife, a coach's wife, a baseball player's mother. So she's had it from every aspect. And the one thing that they both preached to me was play the game the right way. That means on the field, playing the game the way it's supposed to be played, and then off the field, don't be cheating. I remember in like 1989, 1990, I was playing Nintendo with my brothers. We're playing Nintendo, and my mom walks in the door and goes, hit pause. And so we pause it, and she goes, I want you all three to promise me that you'll never take steroids. And I was like 7, right? Like, I don't even know what that is. And I'm going, sure, whatever. Can we keep playing? And she's like, promise me. And we all promised. And that was it. That was when all the stuff was going on with the A's, with, Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire. And like, that stuff started to happen. And I think their biggest thing was maybe the health part of it. I don't know. But I think what they were addressing was the character part of it. Because if you talk to a player now who's in AAA, he's on the fringe of the big leagues, and you tell him, if you take a substance that makes you better, you're going to make millions of dollars. But people may find out and think you're a cheater. So I think what my parents tried to do early on, and maybe they had the foresight, I don't know, but I think they were more concerned with my character as a human. And moving forward in my life and all my relationships with the people I come in contact with, they were more concerned about that than they were me being a good ball player. And I think sometimes guys lose sight of that. They would rather be a good ball player and ruin every relationship that they have moving forward just to gain an edge. And anyway, I know that seems kind of mundane, because especially when these guys are making $10 million, all they have to do is just take something that's illegal, but either way, I can sleep at night knowing that I've been drug free since '83.
Nice. It's listening to the Hall of Fame speeches yesterday, Simba's speech, Jeter's speech, that came out very strong. Character, and character counts in everything you do, and successful people have character. Some successful people don't. Well, there's other reasons for that, but the character is the best way to get there. So,
well, I think there's a certain definition of success for different people. So if you define success as money, well, I mean, you can take steroids and do awesome and make millions of dollars. You can. I know several of those people. But if you're looking at, how you sleep at night, how you come across to your kids, would you ever tell your kids to cheat? No, of course not. So to me, I don't want to use the role model thing. I don't think I should ever be a role model. I don't think any baseball player should be a role model, or anybody. I would never tell my kids to be like Mike Trout, even though Mike Trout's legit. I don't know him. I wouldn't want to say, yeah, you need to be like that guy. I would never do that. I'd be like, you be like you. And I think you need to stand for something. You need to stand for more than just this game of baseball. I think there's something bigger outside of that you need to go, you know what, you're this as a human and you happen to play baseball. And that definition matters, because some guys are so wrapped in baseball that everything that they do is tied to that. And it's almost a difficult existence. So I've been retired for about 6 months and I haven't really gone through that. I haven't unpacked what that means to not be a ball player right now. So you're catching me at a good time where where I still feel I'm good up here.
Yeah. With kids and grandkids, I always tell them every day, you have to face somebody every day. The first person you see is yourself in the mirror. So if you're thinking of something, remember the next morning, you have to look yourself in the eye. And can you do that?
Yeah, that's good. I actually go several days without looking in the mirror.
I have to replace mirrors regularly because they get broken, but that's another story. I haven't looked to see if there's any questions out there for a bit. Anybody else? Keep throwing questions at us here.
Yeah, just curious, Tim, did your other two brothers play baseball and have any success on getting drafted or playing after high school?
Yeah, so both older brothers were really good. They weren't drafted. My middle brother, Andy, was the best Division II college baseball player in the nation in 2000. 2002.
He attend.
2002, Delta State University in Mississippi. That's where I'm trying to think. Mike Kennison was the coach there, and I'm blanking on his name. Oh man, this is bad. Anyway, it's a pretty prestigious baseball school, and I think he just got overlooked a little bit. He played third base. He should have been drafted. He played some independent baseball, and then my other brother, my oldest brother, he played at Mississippi State and actually got hurt in I don't even know what you call it nowadays. I've been so far removed, but preseason college, whatever that is, the fall league.
In the fall.
Yep. So he got hurt and broke his ankle. A first baseman fell on him running down to first base. But he ended up playing some professional baseball, some independent baseball, and then he blew his knee out, turning a double play. He got taken out at second base and blew his knee out. So for the most part, it's been pretty much injuries. My middle brother, Andy, he ended up having some elbow issues playing for Butch Hobson. If anybody remembers Butch Hobson, Butch Hobson was his manager in Nashua in the Can-Am League. And anyway, he ended up having some injuries and stuff like that. So I just had all my injuries in high school and college. And by the time I got to pro ball, I was healthy and I wasn't that smart. So college wasn't my path. But both of my brothers are really smart. One's got a degree in aerospace engineering, and the other one got a master's in business. So I got 2 years of junior college under my belt.
As long as you're happy, that's the bottom line.
I'm pretty happy. I'm a happy guy.
Yeah, another great nickname for your name from the earlier conversation was a Stubby Clapp, played for Memphis. He was in that round robin voting thing that I always remember.
Yeah, Stubby Clapp. So he was the manager, he played in Memphis, but he was the manager in Memphis for a while. He had his name, he had his thing stuck up on the wall in like left center behind their bullpen. I've seen him many times. He coaches first base for the Cardinals right now. But he was just a good player. He's a little guy though.
Yep.
But we would make fun. We would make a joke, and I apologize for this joke up front, but we'd come to Memphis and we'd be like, hey, whatever y'all do, stay away from the Stubby Clapp.
Exactly.
I actually like
what a great name.
I actually like Pokey Reese.
Yeah, Pokey Reese. Yeah, man, the myth, the legend.
I'm looking at this. You share a birthday with my much older twin brother, and you were born in Sarasota. You went to high school in Mississippi. Did you move around a little bit with your dad's coaching and professional baseball and coaching? as a kid?
Yeah, he retired and became a coach, and that's when I was born in Florida. He was coaching for the White Sox in Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota. That was his Gulf Coast League team. And then, I hung out with him every time he coached in different leagues: Auburn, New York, Rockford, Illinois, Quad City, Iowa. And then my mom and my dad are high school sweethearts from a small town in Mississippi, Saltillo, Mississippi. And so when I was probably 11 or 12, he got fired from the Astros, and we moved to Mississippi. So I went to high school and college in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And in this small town, I had teachers that taught my parents that taught me. So, like, just to give you an idea of what that looks like, these people knew everything about my parents, regardless of their whole big league baseball thing, and they were teaching me. And then, I did junior college in Mississippi, and then kind of moved out of there. But I don't know. I've lived a third of my life in Florida, a third of my life in Mississippi, and a little more than a third of my life in Tennessee. So right now I'm in Milwaukee in the lobby of American Family Field. So I don't know where I qualify of being raised, but I'm here.
Good.
But you seem to like Milwaukee. Do you imagine you'll be here? Like maybe you could be the next Bob Uecker. He's also a solid play-by-play guy. I don't know if you'd be interested in doing that, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on Milwaukee so far?
I love Milwaukee, and let's be honest, Bob Uecker is going to outlive everybody. He's on another level. I get to see him every home game. He walks by, and you can tell when he's in the press box too. Everybody, and Rick, you can account for this. Like, everyone kind of is quiet, and they kind of just see what he's going to say, what story he's going to tell. And you just wait, is he going to talk to me today? And he talks to everybody. He does. He says hi to everybody, and he walks through. And sometimes he's just trying to get to the broadcast booth, and other times he has time to kill, and he's just looking for, and I'm always there. I'm always there going, what you got for me, Uke? He's a legend. He can't be replaced. I think that's pretty apparent. I do have a face for radio. I feel like eventually that could be a path for me. But I think he just kind of set the precedence for what it takes. I feel like Uecker came along so that, like, Harry Carey could come along, so that you have these guys that are characters delivering baseball in such a way of, by the way, baseball is really fun. It's a kid's game. And I don't think there should be so much anxiety around baseball. It's fun. I think you should enjoy it. And so to me, that's almost inspiration. When I see Uecker, I'm just like, man, how much fun can we make this broadcast? Whatever it is. I do pregame or postgame, or maybe I'm in game. To me, it's all about baseball is fun. How can we portray that? So I don't know. I've been in minor leagues most of my career. 17 out of 18 seasons I was in the minor leagues, and I could get fired at any moment, which is kind of like my job now. I don't really think I should be broadcasting from here right now.
I don't know if you're aware, but Harry Carey came along long before Uecker did. He was broadcasting Uecker's games as a Cardinal.
Oh yeah, well, people kind of wrote off Harry Carey with the Cardinals, with that whole thing that went down. He only gained more recognition coming with the Cubs later on. That's kind of what I was alluding to, just with that regard, nationally. But with those guys, they make baseball fun. And so I was always attracted to that. We didn't have a remote control for our TV when we had 3 channels when I was growing up. So I was the remote control. So I've seen Harry Carey about as close up as you can get, right? That was it's the only thing we had. And I watched Harry Carey all the time. And so for me, it's all about fun. I don't know where, I think kids love baseball. I think they get it more than almost anybody else. And I think somewhere along the way, I don't know what age it is, but older people, parents, or whatever age it is, they almost turn it into, okay, it's not fun anymore. It's all a business. And I think if you want to be really good at baseball, you need to stay in that fun sector. And that's what I teach my kids. I'm like, baseball's fun. If you don't want to play, then we'll go do something else. But I'm not going to force you to play baseball, because if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. And so I think what you have is that kids love and enjoy baseball. And to me, that's how you should portray it. Whether it's little league or big leagues, doesn't matter. Baseball's fun.
What do your kids think about you being a baseball player?
So I played long enough for all three of my kids to actually remember me pitching. And so those moments where I'm on the mound, I actually was pitching against the Dodgers. Gavin Lux, if everybody remembers Gavin Lux, he's with the Dodgers right now.
Wisconsin kid.
Yeah, so he gets called up to AAA. I think it's his first game was in AAA in Nashville, and I didn't know who he was, but now I know who he is. The first pitch of the game I threw, he hit it off the batter's eye behind me in center field, and I remember thinking, "Wow, that was pretty incredible what he just did right there." And anyway, I was actually the rest of the game. It was home run after double after home run after double. And there's times where you just want to give up out there, right? You just want to go, this is ridiculous. Get somebody in the bullpen. Get me out of this game. But then I look in the stands and I got three kids sitting there in the stands like, what am I going to get mad? Am I going to get mad and, throw my hands up in the air or try to make a teammate look bad or anything like that? But they're sitting there rooting for me, my kids. And so I've been very fortunate. I never got to watch my dad play. I never got to root him on in that way as a player, but my kids did. So for me, I'm sitting there going, this is the worst game ever, but all that my job is to put my foot on this rubber and try to make a pitch and just stay right there. And so after games, I would talk to my son, especially because he was older, and we would talk and I'm like, you know what? It didn't go the way I wanted to, but it doesn't mean I don't have a job to do. My job is to do the best I can in the moment, even though the worst things are happening. My job is to do the best I can for my teammates, for my friends, for what I'm trying to do out there. It's just the right thing to do. And so, pitching as long as I have and my kids getting to see me do it is really held me accountable. And so now my kids, I get to coach them, and even though they don't get to see me play anymore, they're still holding me accountable to that standard of, it doesn't matter what your job is, do the best you can. But that's what I teach my kids. They got to watch me play, and I think it's a special thing. I hope they remember it forever.
You made the comment when Lux hit that one off the batter's eye, how incredible it was. Are there ever times in a game when a ball player does something spectacular, maybe actually against you, but you just want to somehow recognize them for, hey, nicely done, but there's that unwritten law that you can't? Or what I've often looked at is you see a pitcher just completely full of batter, and if I was at the plate, I'd look at the umpire and say, I'd never prayer on that, but you don't want the catcher to say, see that. Does any of that sort of thing happen?
All the time. I think you're seeing it now more than ever because guys are to the point now where, nobody's fighting anymore. Nobody's really arguing with umpires, and everybody knows everybody. I know, I worked out in the off season. I've worked out with like Mike Napoli and Mookie Betts and Ben Zobrist and Chase Headley and just tons of guys over my career and just playing catch with them. I saw Chris Sale with the Red Sox. We threw the football a few times. So, just seeing these guys, even if they're for your arch rival, you do just respect the fact that they are just good ball players. Like, I think there's a respect factor now that you just didn't get early on in baseball because guys, I think it started out as a gentleman's game, and then it became in like maybe the 70s and 80s where people were pretty angry with each other when it came to teams playing, fighting and stuff like that. And I think it's gone to a point now where there's such an appreciation for each person's craft and what they do. And that shows when, like, even now as a broadcaster, I'm on the field and I'm talking to the Phillies players, and those Phillies guys are like, how good is Brandon Woodruff? How good is Corbin Burns' cutter? You just have this appreciation for what the other guy is doing. Like, yes, he beat you, but I think there's just this idea that baseball is kind of on another level from everybody else. It's a gentleman's game. Everybody's just trying to play it the best they can. No one's ever played it the best ever. No one's ever done that. It's a game that you can't be perfect at it. So you just appreciate guys doing it at different crafts. You look at Rickey Henderson at the Hall of Fame the other day. I mean, just that guy looks like he could steal a base right now in the major leagues. Like the record's never going to be broken. And so you recognize these moments where people are very special in what they're doing. And I've had several guys rob home runs for me. I've had guys rob base hits for me. Catchers that have just been outstanding. Martin Maldonado is probably one of my favorite catchers ever. He taught me so much, even though I was probably like 7 years older than him. But like, you just have these guys that come along in your career that just teach you so much. And it's only because they're doing something good at their craft that you just haven't come across before. So I would say for the most part, there's a long list of guys that I just completely admire just because they've done things. Maybe it's one time, it's one play, but a lot of times it has to do with how they prepare and how they go about their business getting ready for a Major League Baseball game. Look at Jace Peterson for the Brewers right now. That guy is the most prepared person I think I've ever seen in Major League Baseball.
What did Maldonado teach you?
Maldonado was big on never being okay with what your stuff is. I remember when I started throwing sidearm, he was kicking it around in the minor leagues, AAA, and he didn't think he was going to get called up to the big leagues ever. And so, but that didn't deter him. He still was trying to help pitchers out. He was telling me, hey, you need to make sure you can do this with your pitches. You need to be able to elevate your fastball. You need to be able to throw your curveball, to a left-handed hitter. Like, you don't need to be, this is my stuff, I can't evolve. You need to always be getting better. I don't, and it's weird too, because he was younger than me, and I just never got that from a younger player of going, hey, are you okay with what you're doing right now? And I'm going, yeah, I guess. And he's like, no, you can be better. And so I think you need that. I think you need that to go, you don't know how good you can be until somebody tells you or gives you the right codes, the cheat codes on how to do that. So he was telling me, hey, you throw the fastball down in the zone 5 pitches. He's like, why don't you start bringing that fastball up? And so all of a sudden I'm throwing fastballs at the bottom of the zone and I get 2 strikes, and I throw a fastball at the letters and the guy is totally blown away because he's looking down, and all of a sudden it's a fastball up. And I don't know, I had success with it, and he was a big part of that. So I think there's always something to learn. I think the players that don't ever get better, they're the ones that just think they have it figured out. And Christian Yelich is the king of that. For him, he's always learning. I think he is the epitome. Watching his Zoom calls after games. So as a press person, I think I have a press pass. I don't know where it is. I hope I didn't lose it. I need that. But like, we get to see some of these interviews, and for him to just talk about being a student of the game and all the stuff you can learn, even as a guy that was an MVP, it's pretty special to listen to, because anytime you think you have it figured out, there's always something to learn. There's always an edge to look for, and it happens every at bat, every game, every pitcher. It's pretty spectacular.
Tim, the Brewers never had a reputation for developing pitchers, and all of a sudden they've got the lab, and look at what we're developing. What's besides you, obviously.
Oh, besides me, yeah.
That was the understood. But for years, and all of a sudden with the lab, I don't know what the lab does, but how much is that lab making a difference with developing pitchers?
Well, I have the inside track of knowing that people like Woodruff and Peralta, I don't think they buy into some of the super analytical stuff when it comes to this is how you should pitch regardless. I think there's a certain level of recognizing what a team's trying to do. If you look at just the other day with Woodruff facing the Phillies, they were hunting fastball, and Woodruff has one of the best fastballs in all of Major League Baseball. And he started getting hurt with it, but before he could recognize that that's what they were doing was hunting fastball, he didn't have time to adjust to his other stuff. Bryce Harper 2-run home run, guys were coming out swinging the bat, getting runs on the board before he could realize, man, they're just sitting fastball. And so then he changed it up and he ended up doing pretty good. But like, nobody knew that. Nobody knew the Phillies were going to come in hunting fastball. And I think sometimes you're the first pitcher of the series, you kind of have to wear it on what this other team's trying to do next. You're talking about pitchers in general. It's all about figuring out how to get this hitter out in the moment. Sometimes, like, look at Josh Hader yesterday. Josh Hader decides he's going to throw a changeup and get a ground ball double play. And was it his best pitch at the moment? Maybe not. Probably fastball, probably slider. But the best pitch at that moment was the one the hitter least expect. So this hitter is sitting there going, I'm looking fastball, but I'll adjust the slider, and then suddenly gets changeup. Well, what's he do? Hits the ball on the ground, double play. I think being able to understand what's happening in the moment is the biggest thing when it comes to pitching. The Brewers are really good about getting pitchers and then make them the best versions of themselves. If you look at Hunter Strickland from the Giants, Hunter Strickland, he had some good years with the Giants, I guess, and then he I forgot who he was with before, and then he goes to, man, I can't remember now, Marlins, Nationals. Either way,
Nationals,
he kind of bounced. Yeah, he did okay, but I think what the Brewers do is they sit there and look at a pitcher's stuff and go, okay, can we make this better? Can we help this? Where is this guy doing? So when you talk about the pitching lab and what they're doing, honestly, the same thing they do with why Christian Yelich does really well as a Brewer as opposed to being a Marlin. They take what he can do and they stick that where he would be in the NL Central, the most teams he would face, the places he would play at.
Yeah. How
good does he look? And so they take these pitchers and they go, okay, if we can adjust his fastball or we can give him a better changeup, what would that look like in his stats with this place and the teams that he faces? And so it's not always like, let's get them in this on this mound with all these computers and cameras. It's more or less going, okay, with the stuff that he's going to face, what would be a better pitch? And then it's going, okay, what pitch would complement your best pitch? It's not always fastball. If this guy's a really good slider, it's like, okay, well, let's find a pitch that complements that amazing slider. So to me, it's being willing to adjust, which a lot of times there's a lot of organizations that do not want to give that patience on letting a guy adjust to a new pitch, a new philosophy, and things like that. I think the Brewers are very patient in that area.
He was actually with the Angels and Rays
earlier
this
Yep.
season.
Well, he was really good with the Rays this year, and then had maybe a couple outings with the Angels and didn't do so hot. But I think the Brewers recognize, they scoop him up, and he's been nails ever since.
Question for you in terms, kind of a follow-up on that pitching. Why do so many big league pitchers nowadays can't handle that third at bat against a hitter, where it seems like two times through the order and then they got a real quick hook?
I think it's I think they can handle the third time through the order. I think it's the analytical part of going, okay, let's see what this guy's ERA is in the first time through the order, his ERA in the second time through the order, and then they automatically assume, okay, he has a 5 ERA through the third time through the order. So if we want to win a game, instead of chancing that, let's go get another guy that comes in and can prevent that from happening. And I get that. When you're talking about winning ball games, it's all about utilizing what you have and the information that you have to the best of your ability to try to win the game. But there's been so many times I go, you have to leave these guys out there. Adrian Hauser has probably, he's been taken out of about 4 games too early. And that's a detriment, and so looking at the game the other day where they left Eric Lauer, did y'all see that game? Eric Lauer in the 6th inning, he was coming up to bat and they put Daniel Vogelback out there to kind of as a decoy to look like he was going to hit. And then they put Lauer back out there. That was the right call. He had earned the chance to go back out there for the 7th inning. And that's, Craig Counsell is about 50-50 in that area. For me personally, whatever that means, where he should leave guys out there and then other times he takes guys out. And so, you know, who's to know what the right answer is in those moments? If you look back to the World Series last year, they took Blake Snell out too early with the Rays, but all the numbers were like, oh, well, Snell's done. And just if you took all the numbers away and you're watching this game, you're going, Blake Snell is in complete control of this baseball game. You should pitch him until he can't walk anymore. You know, he should be crawling off that field. That's how good he was. And as soon as they took him out, they put somebody else in, and then the game's, you know, completely out of hand. You just, sometimes baseball tells you everything you need to know. And
You think if he's left in the dot, you think if he's left in the Rays to win that game?
Yep, I do, 100%. I think baseball,
I
if
agree.
you can watch the game and you pay attention to the game, it starts to tell you stuff. It tells you when to take a pitcher out, when not to take a pitcher out. And I think in that moment last year, 100%, they shouldn't have taken him out. And there's several games this year where I'm going, you take this guy out right now, I don't care if you put in Mariano Rivera. It doesn't matter who you put out there. The game is telling you not to take this guy out. If you take him out, it doesn't matter who, you're going to lose the game. And I've seen that over and over again, but I don't even know how to quantify that. It's more of a feeling. So when it comes to first time through the order, second time through the order, third time through the order, I wouldn't put much stock in that personally, as opposed to how good is the pitcher doing? What's his effectiveness? If he's effective, then give him the third time through the order. There's no rhyme or reason why not to. You know, don't just do it because it's the third time through the order. There's a lot of factors that go into that. As a pitcher, you may bury a guy inside and get him out, and the next time up, you're throwing, you know, curveballs or sliders, and you get him out, and the next time up, he doesn't know whether it's going to be a fastball in or a slider away, and you have him. You can go fastball up, you can go change up, you know, those kind of things.
Well, and the other thing with that is analytics, you know, are very, very helpful. And so if he's starting to struggle that third time through, okay, this is saying that. But if you're really pitching well, let him go, you know, because the eye should tell you more. And if it's not working, you can have a quick hook, but having a quick hook before he's falling apart seems in many ways wrong. So yeah, I'd agree with you on that.
Well, one of the things they teach minor league coaches is to visit the mound before something bad happens. I've actually heard that several times, and several coaches from several organizations. They teach these guys, hey, right in the moment when you know something bad may happen, go visit the mound. And so to me, I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of faith there going, okay, we're going off of your baseball intellect, your baseball IQ of going, okay, you can sense in the game something's going on, and they're telling you to go visit the mound. And I'm saying, use that same, you know, sense and go, okay, there's a time when I need to back off. I don't need to visit the mound. I need to go sit down and take a drink of water and let that guy pitch and get out of the inning. You know, there's a certain level of give and take. And I feel like the Brewers are coming along in that area. I feel like Craig Counsell has been really good lately with giving guys extra innings like Woodruff and Peralta and Burns and Hauser. I feel like he's given them a little more slack, and Lauer a little more slack than he would maybe in years past. And to me, that's a great sign, because that means he's paying attention more to what the guy's doing on the field and less to what he has in front of him, saying, well, this is his track record. It's like, hey, we all have a track record, but if you're doing something in the moment, don't judge me on what I'm doing in the moment just because of my track record.
Does it help? The other thing that you're talking about the World Series game, you're struggling against the starting pitcher and they pull him, and all you can think about is, this guy's gone. Maybe we have a chance now. And years ago, I think that was the line was always, we have to get to the starter so we can get into the pen. It's changed a little. These pens are pretty strong now, but there still has to be something psychological about, this guy we can't hit. They just yanked him. Let's go.
Well, you look at Jack Morris, right? For the Twins, the guy pitched like 12 innings or something. Like, who does that anymore? Nobody does that anymore. Yeah. But that was the idea. I think you look back at some of those documentaries they make about that particular series, and they're like, we can't take him out. We can't afford to take him out, you know, because he's doing that good. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times pitchers are doing so well, and coaches can overlook that and go, oh, well, let's go get this guy. And bullpens are so good. Boxberger, Williams, Hader, those guys are having career years right now. So why not go to one of those guys and go, okay, well, this guy's going to throw that. I mean, you're never going to get questioned in the media when you go to your bullpen too early if your bullpen is awesome, right? Like if your bullpen's amazing and you go to your bullpen and they screw up and the media is like, why'd you go to your bullpen? You can be like, well, the bullpen's awesome. So sometimes the tough call is don't use the safety net of your bullpen so good. Use the safety net of going, you know what? I gave a little bit of faith in my starter. I'm going to see what I get back. And Eric Lauer, after his outing the other day, 7 innings, no runs, in his presser, he's like, you know what? For Craig Counsell to put me back out there for that 7th inning, it said so much. It speaks volumes for what I'm trying to do as a pitcher, what I felt in that moment, and we were on the same page. But if this was, let's see, April, May, June, he wouldn't have gone back out there. I think Craig Counsell's grown this year in ways that he didn't know, because I think the first 3 months of the year, they would have yanked him out and put everybody else in there. But he gave a little faith to Eric Lauer because he earned it, and he went out there and dominated. Honestly, he dominated the Phillies.
I honestly think if the Cubs had employed a strategy prior to the trade deadline, I think they would be challenging the Brewers, and we wouldn't have traded our guys away. Because we went to the bullpen too often. And you know, that's the flip side of what you're saying, Tim. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that the starters have been minimized.
I think it works in synergy. Sometimes your starters are going to be nails and they're going to pitch 6-7 innings, and then you have a bullpen. Other times they're going to go 3 innings and you're going to have to adjust when that comes. But I think it's recognizing what is happening in the moment and not have a preset outlook of like, oh, well, this guy, 3rd time through the order, they bat 400, or his ERA is a 6. So he immediately is not very good. If you start looking at it that way, then you're disregarding what the guy is literally doing on the field. The guy that has spent, however many days getting ready for this moment, his entire career, he is out there giving all he's got. He's pitching a phenomenal game. And then the manager looks at the numbers and goes, okay, you're done. It's like, well, did you see what I was doing? Did you have a feel for the game at all? Look at Josh Hader. Josh Hader is one of the best closers in baseball right now, if not the best. I mean, 30 for 31 save opportunities. The guy's an all-star, 3-time all-star. Josh Hader goes out to the game. He goes out to the bullpen in the 3rd inning. Trevor Hoffman never did that. Mariano Rivera never did that. Brad Lidge. You look at any of the closers across baseball, they don't do that. And I asked Hader one time in the parking lot, just right over there where I'm at. I asked him why he goes out there so early, because most of the times they don't go out early. If they do, they go out early and they go back in and they take a nap. And then they get ready for, to pitch the 9th inning. And Hader said he wants to be out there for at least the 3rd inning, if not before, because he wants to get a sense for how this game's going. He wants to get a feel and a heartbeat for how this game is going. That helps him prepare and pitch better just by an awareness. All he's doing is paying attention, and he feels like he can do that better from the bullpen than he can in a clubhouse television or sitting on the training table, stretching his arm or whatever. He wants to be out there for the 3rd inning so he can see what happens, because that makes him a better pitcher. And I feel like a lot of times the coaching staff can sit there and they miss everything because they're not sitting there watching the game the right way. And I felt like that early on in the season. I don't feel like that now. I feel like Craig Counsell has a very good idea of what's going on. I feel like, maybe he would say this, maybe he wouldn't, but I think early on in the season, I think he was really he would panic sometimes and he would take guys out. And for sure, he has not given Hauser the credit that Hauser deserves. I think Hauser went out and pitched a 9-inning shut piece because he wanted some of that respect that he's been giving maybe other pitchers and not himself.
As heartbreaking as it was to watch for me, being a Cubs fan, I was really impressed with them, with the Brewers coming back 7-0 against Arietta. It broke my heart, but that was something that I didn't expect the Brewers to do it all.
And that was the precursor. That was June 30th when Aaron Ashby did his major league debut and gave up those 7 runs, and the Brewers came back and absolutely dominated. And that right there gave hope to every single game after that, where they've now come back like a record, was it 13, 22, 23, whatever it is. They have like some of the most comebacks in all of baseball. But once they dominated that deficit, being down 7 and coming back from it, I feel like this team is just, they don't care what the score is. They feel like if they have an at bat, they have a chance. Yeah. And that was actually the precursor, which, yeah, I mean, you hate to see that. I mean, Arrieta had some good seasons with the Cubs, but yeah, that was, I don't know. As a Brewers fan, I was happy to see it, but.
Well, you know what's funny is that I said that without even realizing it. That's what's happening with the Cubs now in the month of August, because you're seeing the same kind of play from them. Nobody's talking about it because heck they're out of it. Who cares? But you got a whole bunch of journeyman guys, 29, 30 years old, just fighting tooth and nail and winning.
I think sometimes you can't put together like a certain idea of what your team's going to be. I think you put the players out there. You got Baez and Rizzo and Chris Bryant, because those are the big name guys. And it's like suddenly you're not winning, but then you get rid of them and suddenly you start winning. It's because these other guys have been waiting for their turn. Patrick Wisdom, when he was with the Cardinals in AAA, he's hit like so many home runs and doubles off me, I can't even imagine. But then we were teammates in 2019, and he's one of my favorite people. And I'm not friends with people that hit home runs and doubles off me. I promise you that. Like, it's just a tough gig.
What was it like to have?
Hit a double off me, Ryan. We won't be friends probably. So to me, that's how I roll. And once I got to know him, I'm like, this guy's actually a good dude, and he's a very good baseball player. And I can't believe he's a rookie right now, but he is phenomenal for the Cubs right now, because the Cubs are the first team to really give him a chance to play every day and show what he can do. So
what was it like to play with him, Tim?
What's that?
What was it like to play with Wisdom?
Oh yeah. Oh, he's just awesome. He's just what you don't know it. Well, I mean, he's Irish. He actually visited Ireland in the off season 2 years ago. Let's see. He just had a kid. So he asked me a lot of dad questions, which I thought was really cool, because most people want to just kind of wing it themselves. But he asked about the baseball life and what it meant to be a dad in this life. And I don't know. I don't think he takes anything too personally. I think he goes out there and he doesn't care who the pitcher is. He doesn't care whatever. He's all about his team and trying to get his team a win. And so to me, when they came here early in the season and Wisdom was on that roster, I almost wanted to go down the clubhouse and be like, you guys got to look out for this guy. Like, he's a good player. You need to watch out. And let's be honest, he's batting like 400 and has like 7 home runs against the Brewers this year. It's just because, I mean, he's just that guy. He's just that guy. And you got to be careful of guys like that. And now he's on the radar. So hopefully the Brewers know that going into the next home series.
Tim, when I mentioned that we were going to schedule this for 90 minutes, we're actually past the 90-minute mark. We don't have to end. Are you still okay? I don't have a problem with that at all. It's just, it's so we were talking 8:41 back there. So,
I mean, if y'all can hear me, it's still good. I mean, as far as I know, I haven't been kicked out of this lobby in American Family Field. So,
okay.
Or do you want me to give you a tour?
Sure. Oh, that's Mary's job. No, go ahead. Yeah. Mary's one of the tour people at the stadium. So,
and also Wally Zoller, who joined our meeting for the first time. So Wally and I are your coworkers, Tim.
Yay! Sorry, I feel bad for you. I'm sorry. I apologize.
So Tim,
what go ahead. Was it Chris?
Yeah. I was just going to ask Tim, if you were made commissioner for a day, I mean, what rule changes would you make? And do you like the recent rule changes, the 7-inning doubleheaders, the start the guy off at second base, et cetera?
No, I would get rid of Manfred's ghost man on second base. I'm telling you, you start limiting innings, 7-inning doubleheaders, things like that. You think about the records, right? We all talk about records. We just had the Hall of Fame thing. It's all about records. Right now, when you start limiting innings and possible innings, you're limiting a chance for a guy to get with those records. So basically what you're doing is going, okay, well, we don't want guys to play longer because we don't want them to get hurt. So then it's like, okay, here's the level to get to the Hall of Fame. So here in about the next few years, they're going to have to drop the level down to here because there's going to be nobody with the wins. There's going to be nobody with the hits. There's nobody with the RBIs or home runs. Like it's going to be just dramatically dropping because you're limiting guys with innings. So let's say you have this season, who's a good player? Ohtani.
Someone threw a 7-inning no-hitter, and it's not considered a no-no.
Yeah. So, but I mean,
Bumgarner.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you start talking about complete games or shutouts, but look at the position player side. Ohtani, it's like, okay, well, he has this many home runs. This is his average. Let's say he comes just a home run shy of something, or an RBI shy of something, or a chance at a batting average something. And then you look back and go, you know what? If baseball rules were played the same, he would have played maybe 17 extra innings. So in 17 innings, could he have had an extra home run or an extra double or a stolen base or whatever? You're limiting guys' chances of putting up record-breaking numbers by limiting their chances at innings. So as a guy that had pitched several innings in the minor leagues because they don't want to use guys like Woodruff or Burns or Hader, I'm the guy that came in, and because they didn't want those guys to throw a lot. So that was my job. My job was to come in and help those moments where you had to pitch 4 innings in the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. That's what you did. And so I have no problem with it. I know it as a broadcaster now, I'm like, okay, a 4-hour game, whatever, but I get it. People want to go home, and I understand that. But at the same time, we're all about records. So how can we be all about records and opportunities, but at the same time go, yeah, we need to limit those records and those opportunities? To me, I would change that. Play 9 innings. Sorry. No runner on second base. My bad.
Yeah, good question, Chris. Yeah. What about the RoboCops? The Robo-umps.
I miss RoboCop. I've seen RoboCop 1, 2, and 3. No,
maybe you can take over for you, Chris.
I tell you what, if they come out with Skynet, they have the Terminators that robot the strike zone. I would totally come back out of retirement because I threw sidearm and I threw a curveball that would touch the very front left corner of the plate, and I would hit it every time, and an umpire would never call it because the catcher would catch it a foot off the plate. And I'm going, that hits the front corner of the plate every time. And they're like, well, I can't call that. But if I had laser beams, if I had sharks with laser beams attached to their foreheads and I had this strike zone, I would come out of retirement and I would dominate that thing. And it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter how old you are or what you can do. If you can throw a pitch that no one else can hit, but yet it registers as a robot strike, you're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff. So it's a slippery slope. Pitchers and hitters, there's 50-50 on, I want lasers, I want that strike zone. But you think about it, you look at somebody like Corey Hart, big torso, right? Big torso guy. And he would have a bigger strike zone than, say, Altuve. So Altuve's strike zone would be this because he's, maybe, smaller torso. So then you start saying, okay, well, does it change from hitter to hitter? So when you take away that human element, you're asking for a whole other hornet's nest of problems. But yeah, if they come out with robot umps, I'm totally in. But I think they should do it. They should do it as a suggestion where an umpire maybe wears an earpiece. And so they have lasers in real time. And if the pitch is there and it says strike, then he can say strike. But as far as letting it go to the general public on on just not having an umpire there, I think it'd be weird. It'd be a generational thing. Something that needs to start, in A-ball and then work its way up so that guys in the big leagues aren't taken back by it. But we're going to see in our lifetimes, it's going to be umpires.
Yeah,
I think.
One of the things with instant replay, you get these plays at that either it's overturned because the umpire couldn't see that the foot was 3/4 of an inch off the base, and for and calling something out for something like that the naked eye doesn't see, you slow down the game for something like that. And it just seems like the original idea was something that was really a bad call. That's what you're supposed to prevent. But now turning over those little bitty things like that, that always just seems a little nitpicking. So,
well, to me, I have no problem with the replay and trying to get the call correctly. Mm-hmm. To me, it's how long it takes, because I always empathize with the pitcher. So there's a simple play, and then they challenge, and then the pitcher has to just stand out there. This came to the forefront for me to the point where I said something about it. Was Devin Williams in San Francisco. He's pitching a really good game. He has 2 outs. He got Chris Bryant on first. Chris Bryant steals to throw to second. They call him safe, I think, and then they called him out, and then they called him safe, but they didn't have really good evidence. And then they went back and forth. It took a long time, and the whole time I'm looking at Devin Williams spending 3 minutes on the mound by himself, just chilling, while all this other stuff got done. And then he ends up giving up like 3 or 4 earned runs. He gave up a home run, ended up losing the game. And to me, the moment wasn't so much about the guy being safe or out. It was about how long it took to determine that. So if they can determine that faster, I'm all for it.
Well,
if they say out and they say challenge and they say go to New York, and New York says he was safe, they go safe. And it happens in 5 seconds the way it could, then they should do that. Otherwise,
they don't explain the ruling either. What do you think about that, Tim?
Yeah, sometimes they have no idea what they're doing. They go with what they think is best, and they're like, whoa, well, we can't. And there's no rhyme or reason. There's no set rules, and I think people don't like that. In a game of baseball where there's rules everywhere, all of a sudden there's no rules in this arena, and so that bothers people. So to me, if you want to do replay, just do it. There's so many cameras. They hire so many people in New York to do this stuff. They should find out like that. It shouldn't take 3 minutes. There shouldn't be a pitcher waiting out there. They're freezing the kicker, right? We got NFL kicking back up. They call timeout 4 times to freeze the kicker. That's what this is. There's guys using that as this wasn't really a close play, but we're going to spend 2 minutes figuring it out so that we can make their 8th inning guy, their 9th inning guy stand out there and look awkward while he's waiting for the next batter to come up.
Yeah. And then the other thing, it seems sometimes are the umps in Chelsea a little nervous about overriding the umpire's call on the field. So should the replay come in without them knowing what the umpire in the field called it, so that they're coming at it without any knowledge other than what they see?
Yeah, it's middle school all over again. It's peer pressure. These guys are like, well, I don't want to, the crowd's going to be New York, ESPN. But to me, they're asking too much of umpires right now. That's why they're struggling with the strike zone. It's because they have to worry about, guys using substances on their glove or their hat or, their belt or whatever. They're worried about, replay and all this. They're worried about so many other things. If you go back to 1860s in the rules, they didn't have an umpire. They had an arbiter. They went and found a judge from the local magistrate to come out, and it was a gentleman's game, and they played the game right until there was a dispute, and then they would ask the arbiter, who just paid attention, and he would step in. He would make his judgment call, and everybody was like, okay, cool. But when you're constantly relying on the judgment call, give us a judgment call. You're asking way too much of umpires, who are human. And I know lots of them, and there's some good dudes there, but they have a tough gig when they're standing back there watching what pitchers are doing, and they're throwing 100 miles an hour, and they have to watch for this. They have to watch for, make sure they come set. They have to watch for the replay. They have to watch for substances. They have to watch for all this stuff. And they lose track of certain things, whether it's a check swing or it's a strike call, whatever. They have way too much responsibility on umpires right now. And I think the umpires are showing that. I think they're doing pretty poor because they have too much they have to look for.
Less, admittedly, this is less significant than these other rule changes, but it's always struck me, just speaking personally, kind of crazy with this intentional walk situation where they save about 45 seconds in a game, length of a game, by saying just put the guy on first base rather than doing it the old way and throwing out the admittedly low chance that something will happen during the intentional walk. How do you feel about that?
As a pitcher, I love the just put him on base. And I'll say, and then here's the reason why. I always found it, and I've had to walk a lot of people, because especially when I was sidearm, I would have to walk like a bunch of lefties, and so I could get to the righty. So basically, as a pitcher, if you say you have a guy on second, 2 outs, and you're walking a guy because you want to face the next guy. So you throw 4 uncompetitive pitches just off to the side, just nice and easy. It's not your normal mechanics. It's not your normal pitches. You throw 4 over there, he goes on base, and then what do you have to do? You have to throw your most important pitches of the game to the next batter. So as a pitcher, I'm sitting there like, some of the hardest things I've ever done is to walk a guy and then try to lock back in to face the next guy. So logistically, as a pitcher, I don't care about time frame. You know, people don't, if you like short games, then baseball maybe not your game. But when it comes to like functionality, I'm okay with putting the guy on base, because it's really hard as a pitcher to throw 4 pitches for a ball to walk a guy strategically, and then have to throw the most important pitch of your day to the next batter. That's a hard thing to overcome. So for me, when I'm like, yeah, put this guy on, let's do it right away after I threw a competitive pitch, and it's like, no, put this guy on, then there's not much time that goes by. I feel like a lot of times there's so much time that goes by between very important pitches that pitchers lose out on that argument, because whether it's replay or whether it's walking a guy or it's a controversy or it's an argument. Think about when coaches argue with the umpire at the plate, like all that stuff, it always reflects on the pitcher. A batter can stand there all day. He can sit on the ground. That's not a big deal. Hitters do that all the time. Pitchers are in the game to throw pitches. They're on the mound. They're ready. No one else is ready. That's what bothers a pitcher. So for me, yeah, I don't mind. I would never change that rule. I'm okay with that.
I think it was when I was at the Brewers fantasy camp a million years ago. One of the pitchers, and I want to say possibly Moose Haas, said the hardest thing to do is when your manager tells you to hit the batter, because you're trained, you're going across the plate. Now you're told to aim at somebody and hit them. And would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, as a guy that holds a record in the Pacific Coast League that's only been around for like 80 years, that holds a record in that league, it's hard to hit somebody sometimes. I've hit people on accident a ton. So it's like, okay, we want you to actually hit somebody. It's like, oh, wow. And I've been faced with that decision. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. And nobody really wants to hit anybody. There's times where I go, I'm going to throw this ball inside. If it hits him, I won't lose sleep at night, you know. But for the most part, nobody wants to hit anybody. But you throw it and it's just not believable. You can see it. I mean, people that know baseball, they see it every time. Every time a guy throws at somebody, you can totally tell. The dude for the Nationals, who was actually a teammate of mine in spring training, I forgot his name off the top of my head, but he threw at Freddie Freeman the other day, Nationals and Braves. Anybody watch that one?
The replays on it.
Sean Nolan, left-handed. Dude, that was so, watching his pitches before that and then watching him throw literally right at Freddie Freeman 2 times in a row. The umpires threw him out of the game. It was probably the right call because he was totally trying to hit him. Would he have tried another time? Who knows? But 100% he was trying to hit him. So I don't know. I don't condone that. If any time I hit somebody, I usually hit him in the foot. I'm just like, move. If you don't move, then you're going to get hit.
I know at that fantasy camp, Gorman was telling a story. I don't know if it's true. I don't know how many of Gorman's stories are ever true, but he talks about Vukovic a guy hit Gorman in the previous inning. So Vuki's best friend on the team is Gorman. He has to get even for his friend. So batter comes up and he's trying to hit him and he keeps missing him and he ends up walking him. So then he's pissed that he walked him. So now he's throwing over at the first to try and hit him, just to, hurt him a little. Well, he threw a ball away, ends up on second. And Gorman claims, I came in out of center field to tell him, okay, we're even, stop before you guys scores. I don't know if it's good. And that could be where that conversation came out. It was a great story, hard to prove, and knowing Gorman, Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. That comes to, as a player, on TV and in person, you're watching the game play out and you're not emotionally attached to the game. So we can all watch the game and go, oh, this is a baseball game. But when you're in the game and you're playing it, when you're on the mound, when you're in the batter's box, you have irrational thoughts where it's just like everything is heightened. Everything seems reasonable. If you're on the mound and you're like, I'm going to throw a knuckleball. And then part of you goes, I've never thrown a knuckleball. In that moment, you're like, you know what? I'm going to throw the best knuckleball ever. But it's like, that doesn't make any sense. But you're like, throw it anyway. Like you just have these irrational thoughts on the mound and in the batter's box that they make perfect sense to you. You can't even quantify that. But a person sitting in the stands would not think that at all. It's like, I'm on the mound and I come set and I'm thinking, maybe I'm left-handed. I've never been left-handed. Why would I throw a ball left-handed? But on the mound at that moment, for some reason, I'm thinking I would be better off if I threw this ball left-handed. That doesn't make any sense. So when you're on the mound and you're in the box and you have these irrational thoughts, that's the stuff that happens. But when you're as a spectator and you're not emotionally attached in the moment of what's going on, you're going, this looks ridiculous. What is going on right now? But for these guys in the moment, it is a big deal because it makes perfect sense in their brain in the moment.
So how did that knuckleball work that you threw?
I don't know. The catcher never caught it. It went a long ways.
Folks, we're at 2 hours. We've taken a lot of Tim's time. I appreciate this greatly. I think I would like to second Mary's idea of you as a broadcaster of replacing Euchre, or I agree, no one can replace Bruce Euchre, but I think you bring in some of the same thing Euchre does. You love the game, you enjoy the game, but you know the game. Euchre talks about himself and all the jokes. He knows the game. So what he's talking about, you have the same thing. And that's really, you can bring the fun into the game, but also teach people about the game. So Mary, I second your nomination. Luckily, we don't have to sign the contract, so we aren't going to have to, hold up to it. But we would be there for you, Tim.
I'll sign it. Sign it. You let me know.
I gotta say, it's really hard to keep, for one presenter to keep our attention for 2 hours in any chapter meeting. But this chapter meeting, it's like 2 hours. I could go 3 hours more.
I agree. Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I've mentioned you, Tim. We have something we called bar time. If you want anybody wants to stay on afterwards and chat, I want to turn the recording off. We're at 2 hours already. We'll put that in our newsletter. So, okay. But if anybody wants to stay on and talk about baseball or anything else, that's not a problem. But okay. Tim, thank you. Ryan, you're absolutely right. This was a fast 2 hours and I appreciate it.
Yeah, fast 2